Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to our Saturday Srimad-Bhagavatam class. Today's January the 9th, 2021. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
And in this new year, we have a speaker we don't hear from often. So he's here to help us bring in the new year. And he is just an amazing devotee. His name is His Grace Jiva Tattva Prabhu. He's a disciple of His Holiness Gopal Kṛṣṇa Swami Maharaj. He joined ISKCON 25 years ago. Wow. And he looks so young. It's amazing. He has a master's degree from Johns Hopkins and works as a coach trainer in the IT field and offers tech support to Kṛṣṇa Care. He is very enthusiastic and he likes to give classes on Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita class. Together with his good wife, Ananda Rupa Devi Dasi, they have raised two wonderful sons. They led a Bhakti Vriksha, helping devotees for many years and served in various other capacities from book distribution, college preaching, to DC Harinam. And I know every time I speak to him, he's always just so, he's not one who speaks Prajapa, he's always speaking Krishna Katha, and he speaking from his wealth of scriptural knowledge and realization. So it's a treat for us to hear from him today, and we're all looking forward to it, and we're grateful for his association. Thank you, Jiva Tattva Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhvacharya Prabhu and Kunti Mata. First of all, I would like to offer my respects to the senior Vaishnavas like yourself and Kunti Mata, who are like the leaders of the community. And I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak at Institute. And if I do make a mistake, please forgive me. Understand that I'm just an aspiring devotee. And anything that's coming, it's coming because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the gurus and the acharyas and the parampara and wonderful devotees like you. Hare Krishna. So we would like to get started with Jai Radha Madhav Press. I just want to kind of quickly give you a synopsis of the class today. Again, today we'll be covering Srimad-Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 6, verse 46, where Samudarshana and the equal vision aspect has been described, and the purport is amazing by Srila Prabhupada that we'll be diving into. We'll do Jai Radha Madhav prayers, followed by Mangalacharan prayers, then we'll read the verse and the purport, followed by Guru Pranati, and then into the very subject matters that we'll be discussing today. Hare Krishna. If I have your permission, I can get started. Let me know. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Jai Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
join us for Mangalacharan prayers. We'll do it together, so in cohesion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirye. Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtaki. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, please join us today in the recitation of verse 46 of Chapter 6, Canto 4. Srimad-Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 6, verse 46.
Can you eat now?
Hare Krishna. Nave swatam tache chanarpitatmanam bhuteshu sarveshu vipashyatam tava bhutani chatmanya pratagdakshatam prayena rosho abhibhaved yatha pashum. Hare Krishna. So word for word translation, synonyms. Na, not. Why, but. Satam, of the devotees. Tat charana arpita atmanam, of those who are completely surrendered at your lotus feet. Bhuteshu, among living entities. Sarveshu, all varieties. Abhipashyatam, perfectly seeing. Tava, your. Bhutani, living entities. Cha, and. Atmani, in the Supreme. Apratak, non-different. Didrakshatam, those who see like that. Prayena, almost always. Roshaha, anger. Abhibhavet, takes place. Yatha, exactly like Pashum, the animals. Translation by His Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear Lord, devotees who have fully dedicated their lives unto your lotus feet certainly observe your presence as Paramatma in each and every being, and as such they do not differentiate between one living being and another. Such persons treat all living entities equally. They never become overwhelmed by anger like animals who can see nothing but differentiation. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Again, I would like to express my gratitude for giving me this opportunity to speak on this beautiful subject of Srimad-Bhagavatam and on this beautiful chapter which glorifies the wonderful qualities of Lord Shiva. So first of all, I express my gratitude and appreciation to His Grace Madhvacharya Prabhu, Kunti Mata, and all the other devotees at Institute and all the other devotees who are in this session. Hare Krishna. So there are some amazing lessons that we get from this.
Do you want to do purport?
Oh yes, let me also cover the purport. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes angry or kills a demon, materially this may appear unfavorable, but spiritually it is a blissful blessing upon him. Therefore, pure devotees do not make any distinction between the Lord's anger and his blessings. They see both with reference to the Lord's behavior with others and themselves. A devotee does not find fault with the behavior of the Lord in any circumstances. Hare Krishna. So here, one of the distinctions that we observe is that the translation talks about equal vision, and the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about that all activities performed by Lord are auspicious, whether he is killing the demons or he is blessing the devotees. So paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkatam dharma sansthapanathaye sambhavami yuge yuge. Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna the three reasons why he advents again in this material world. So these three reasons are, first one is paritranaya sadhunam, to provide protection to the devotees, to the pious. And vinashaya cha dushkatam, so again to annihilate the miscreants, to punish the miscreants. And dharma sansthapanathaye, to establish the principles of religion. That's the reason Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. He advents to this material universe time and again, like age after age. So here, one of the important lessons that we are hearing is the chapter is titled, Lord Brahma satisfies Lord Shiva. And sometimes when people look at different positions or the different appearances, and there's more insight from Padma Puran that we can get, because the appearance of Lord Shiva is deceiving. As we also hear, before the Daksha Yajna, there was an assembly, again, right after a Yajna, there was an assembly of great sages, Brahmanas, Prajapatis, where Lord Shiva was also there. And in that assembly, Daksha had criticized Lord Shiva. And he criticized Lord Shiva. The only reason was his pride. That was the reason. We all understand it very well, as Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, that when he came to the assembly, he's the leader of the Prajapatis, the progenitors of the universe. So as a leader, when he entered, even the demigods, everybody got up from their seat. They gave up their seat, right, to get up to greet Daksha. However, Lord Shiva, he stayed seated. He was not affected by the external conditions. Rather, he was constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord. And so he was not affected. And however, Daksha, he saw that Lord Shiva did not get up to greet him. And he took it as an offense. He was looking at it that Lord Shiva, who is married to his youngest daughter, Sati. And so he blasphemed Lord Shiva based on, and then he said that I am not envious, I'm not jealous of Lord Shiva, but this person, he's addressing Lord Shiva in his presence as a third person in front of all the demigods. And he's saying that this person is, even though his name is Shiva, which means all auspicious, is inauspicious. And then he's picking up the very characteristics as how he is, he's identifying that he is at a younger position because he's married to my daughter. So I'm his father-in-law, so I'm in a higher position. Second aspect he's giving is that Lord Shiva, he is wearing a garland of skulls and human skulls. So again, and then he is normally wandering at crematoriums, and the ashes from the crematorium is on his body. And so he appears very inauspicious. And he did not even pay respects to elders like me, right? Austerity of body is something that we hear, that one should be, paying respects to the elders, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, to one spiritual master, to the Brahmanas, and to the elders. So, sometimes when you look from that perspective, it appears that Daksha is speaking truth. But because of pride, what appears to be truth is actually just his pride causing him to speak. And the anger is coming, right? Dhayato vishyantamsa sangashteshu pajayate. So again, when we meditate, when a person is very much materially attached, then the person may be meditating on the sense objects. And because of the meditation on the sense objects, attachment develops. And because of the attachment to the sense objects, lust develops. And the lust finally takes the form of anger. Anger turns into wrath, and once goes into delusion. And because of delusion, the memory becomes bewildered. Bewilderment of memory happens. And bewilderment of memory causes the intelligence to be lost. And when one's intelligence is lost, one falls down. And this is very much visible in case of Daksha. So there is a very beautiful set of verses that Lord Kṛṣṇa reveals in, he speaks in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Dhyato vishyan pumsa sangaste shupajayate sanga sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati samoha samoha smati brahmasad buddhi nashat vinashyati. Dhyato vishyan pumsa. So when one is meditating on the sense object, right, Vishya, and Dhyato vishyan pumsa sangaste shupajayate. Sangat is attachment. One develops attachment to those sense objects. Wants to have those sense objects always in possession. And so this leads to Sanga Sanjayata Kama. So from this, Aham Mameti, right? Mameti is mine. Lust develops. Right? Kama Krodha Vijayate. And from lust, anger arises. Krodhat Bhavati Samohat. So from Krodh, which is in the mode of ignorance. Now, lust is in the mode of passion. But now one is falling further down to mode of ignorance, where one is becoming angry, and so delusion arises, right? The darkness happens, and all of a sudden you cannot see the things. When you are in bright light, you can see things, but as the darkness comes in and you don't have any source of light, then you're kind of like getting confused between things. Is this what I think this is, or is that what I think it is, right? So delusion happens. Samohat smrti bhramsa. So the memory gets bewildered. One cannot think properly. The thinking, feeling, willing, everything is getting confused. And smriti bhramsad buddhinasha. So your intelligence is lost because you do not know what you are doing, what you are not doing. And buddhinashat vinashyati. So this is the path we see actually Daksha taking because of pride. Pride cometh before fall. So his pride caused him to become angry and speak ill words to Lord Shiva, who is all auspicious. And it is said that he continued that behavior towards Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he walked out of the assembly. Now his associates, Lord Shiva's associates, they became angry and said so they responded. And their behavior seems to also reciprocate that, being sanctioned by Lord Shiva, because he did not correct his associate, it appears. If you read Padma Puran, then there are many instructions that Lord Shiva gives his devotees, his associates, Nandi and other Bhuta Ganas and all the ghosts and goblins. Lord Shiva is, sharing with them that one should control one's anger, but that's afterwards. And many other occasions happen after this blasphemy from Daksha, by Daksha of Lord Shiva. There is, again, we hear as how in that assembly, the associates of Lord Shiva, they curse the Brahmanas. And then Bhrigu Muni, as a leader of the Brahmanas, father of Shukracharya, he starts cursing back. So there's a lot of cursing going back and forth. The subject matter, the reason is ignored, and they are, giving curses to each other. And those effect, they do take effect, right? So Brahmanas, they do get bewildered as per Nandi's curse. And Brahmanas, when they curse that all the devotees of Lord Shiva, they will become atheists. So that the effect does happen. We see that when Śiva Shankaracharya appeared, the Mayavadi philosophy is very atheistic philosophy. They are, looking at Brahman, even though Śiva Shankaracharya, who is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, clearly reveals Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhajanamati. He's saying that always engage in devotional service of Lord Kṛṣṇa, Govinda, one who gives pleasure to the senses and pleasure to the cows. So here, why is Daksha? So let's take a step back. So now again, when Lord Rāma is glorifying Lord Shiva and singing these prayers as we did in the 46, we are looking at the background. How is Lord Brahma coming to this aspect that he is Samadarshina? Lord Shiva is looking at everyone with equal vision, right? He does not differentiate based on bodily. So somebody must have differentiated, right? And this is what is being referred is that of previous incident where Daksha made that differentiation. Now, at this particular time when Daksha was blaspheming Lord Shiva, there were few signs missing, which are revealed in other Puranas. Lord Shiva did not have, his hair were all scattered. He did not have Ganges waters on his head. That in pastime has not yet occurred. Second thing is, he did not have the crescent moon, which is, the reason, which is the cause of all the essence that comes in the vegetables, and we all, get energy, all the living entities, we get energy through the crescent moon. Again, that's a symbol, auspicious symbol. So these two are not there. So again, he had a lot of snakes on around his neck, around his arms. He had his scattered, hair as jatai, right, matlocks. And he appeared. So again, sometimes the first lesson that we learn is that looks can be deceiving. And Srila Rupa Goswami in Updeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, he reveals that a devotee should not be considered based on his outward experience, appearance, because the appearance could be deceiving. Rather, a devotee should be considered based on the knowledge, the activities, how he is performing or she is performing devotional service. So actions speak louder than words. And Lord Shiva was always meditating on Lord Sankarshan. So that's why he was in meditation. Sometimes we hear that personalities, when they were in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at that time, other personalities mistook that these personalities are ignoring. We hear about, but so you can think of some of the personalities like that, right? King Indradyumna, he was meditating when the sage arrived. Even Shakuntala was thinking of King Dushyant when, Durvasa Muni arrived, and so many other instances where and even Parikshit Maharaj, he thought that Shamik Rishi is avoiding him when he was, when he approached Shamik Rishi's ashram because of thirst and hunger, and he puts a dead snake. So when Parikshit Maharaj is hearing, he's also getting reminded that these things happen because of external appearance. And Lord Shiva, his appearance at this particular instant, he did not have the Nilkantha, that he had not taken the poison yet. Like that's in the future. So at that particular when Daksha was blaspheming, and Sati, she gave up her life at Daksha Yajna, which spoiled the whole Yajna. And then afterwards, when Lord Shiva came to know. So let's think of some of the personalities that were also, misinterpreted just based on their look. Few names come to our mind, right? Dhruv Maharaj. When he wanted to climb on his father's lap, right, sit on his father's lap, or Tanpa, his mother, his stepmother, Suruchi, she pushed him, saying that you have to take birth from my womb to be able to sit in your father's lap. So that was, at that time, Dhruv Maharaj had not yet attained self-realization. He had not had darshan of Lord Vishnu. So it was after he received instructions from his mother and the blessings of Devashi Narad, and by meditating on the instruction of Devashi Narad, he was able to have darshan, was able to see the Lord face to face. Now, some other personalities you can think of, Jal Bharat, right? King Rahugana, he thought that, this man has been employed in carrying my palanquin and he's not doing his job properly, so he needs to be chastised. And so when he got angry, and Jal Bharat, when he spoke, at that time King Rahugana came to know that this is a Mahabharata. And he immediately paid obeisances. He immediately corrected himself. So correction is an important aspect of someone who makes mistakes. So looks can be deceiving. And so Prahlad Maharaj, he was a great devotee of the Lord, but Hiranyakashipu, he was just thinking that my son is just, hearing this from some Vaishnavas who are coming into the Gurukul. And he was telling, the sons of Shukracharya, Chanda and Amarka, that don't let another, some devotees, Vaishnavas to come in and teach them how to be hypocritical and how to be diplomatic and how to exploit the material resources as well as, the living entities. So sometimes such events happen. Shukdev Goswami himself was, not very well understood. When he was walking, around after he left his father's home, he was a self-realized soul. He was not wearing any clothes. So people would think that, oh, this person is a madman. They would. And Avdut Brahman, Lord Dattatreya, we hear about him in 11th canto, as well as in 9th canto. We hear so many instances of so many personalities. So again, from that perspective, now sometimes people say, okay, you're talking about, personalities who are in the, back in those days. How can we realize that there are some personalities even in current times? So we all, at the Gauriya Math and many of the temples, there is a dog in Mayapur. He goes and he takes parikrama of the temple, right? And every morning, when Mangalacharan prayers are going on, he never enters the temple, but he accepts prasad and he pays, he's very calm. He shows some of the behavior. Now, sometimes people say, how could you say that this is a devotee? Well, there is an example before Jal Bharat. Maharaj Bharat, when he fell down, he took the body of a deer and he remembered his past life by the mercy of the Lord. And so he was always going to the sages' hermitages, at the ashrams of some sages, and their ashrams are in the mode of goodness. So that way, he was always hearing the glorious name form activities of the pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. And he understood what his mistake was. So by meditating on the Lord, his next birth was that of Jal Bharat, as the son of a Brahmana. And Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita that one who is a advanced devotee, he takes birth in the family of a transcendentalist. So he had that opportunity, and then he successfully, perfected his life to go back home, back to Godhead. But Jal Bharat was not recognized until he spoke. He had a very strong body, very staunch body. So he was used as a laborer, right, to serve in carrying the palanquin of King Rahugana by the very minister of King Rahugana. So, and another example I can give is at Kurukshetra, if you go to the place where Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjun, and that place there is a cow. And this cow is very nicely embracing all the devotees who visit there. And it's very peaceful, very nice in its behavior, so you can understand. It doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go far from that spot, it wants to stay at that spot. And whatever comes by Lord's mercy, it just accepts that. So there are such wonderful examples even today, where we see irrespective of the kind of body, these living entities have, they are great devotees who are more engaged in devotional service, and are also showing us example that even in current times, devotion has been practiced and is completely beyond the external paraphernalia, the dress that we wear. Now, the second aspect I want to raise is that this one tells us that someone's actions could be misinterpreted. So because Lord Shiva did not speak anything, somebody could say that he agreed, right? When you don't say anything, then it's a half yes. So that is also materialistic thinking, because Lord Shiva, he's equally angered and equally, he's Ashutosh, right? Easily pleased. Yet at the same time, he has 5 additional qualities, additional potencies than the living entities. Jiva Tattva, if we try to understand, Srila Prabhupada, in the very first canto, he is identifying that living entities, and Lord Brahma is also one of the living entities, we can have up to 50 of 64 qualities that Lord Kṛṣṇa has. And they are in some traces, when they have in a large amount, then a living entity can rise to the level of Brahmā. While Lord Shiva, he has 5 more additional potencies than Lord Brahma. And it's very interesting to sometimes see what these are, because by understanding these qualities, we can relate to how Lord Shiva, when he is acting or when he is even advising, then what is his status and why he is that. So the 51st quality that Lord Shiva has that the living entities don't have is changeless. He's changeless, so he does not change. Of course, external paraphernalia gets added on, but he himself is not changing. He's all cognizant. 52nd is he's all aware. So he's also Trikalagya. He knows past, present, future. Yet at the same time, he's very affectionate. Ashutosh also means, again, because of affection, he's very emotional, right? You can say. Yet at the same time, he knows what is the right purpose. He's ever fresh. So even though he may be at crematorium, he's always fresh. He's always active. He's always mindful of the situation. He's never ignoring the situation. And 54th one sometimes surprises even the devotees, because it says he has a Satchidanand body. His body is full of knowledge, eternal and full of bliss, right? We refer to Lord Kṛṣṇa, right? Ishvara Paramaha Kṛṣṇa Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Kṛṣṇa, he has a body which is eternal, full of knowledge and full of transcendental bliss, and Anadir Adir Govinda. He is the oldest person, Adi, and Anadi. There is no one older than Lord Shri Krishna. Govinda is one who gives pleasure to senses and cows. Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. And Lord Shiva is a Shiva Tattva. So what's the difference between Vishnu Tattva, which is Lord Krishna, and his, Swamsha expansions, which are all referred to as Vishnu Tattvas, is that if we have milk, right, and with the effect of an acid, Srila Prabhupada explains, or tamarind, it gets converted into dahi, yogurt, or curd, then the curd cannot turn back into milk, right? Yet at the same time, it has its purpose similar to milk. So Lord Shiva's example is given, the Shiva Tattva is like the curd, while Vishnu Tattva is like the milk. So this is an analogy, which has been given in the Shastras by the Acharyas. So when Lord Shiva, and why is this? What is that association that's causing? Because he's married to Sati Devi, who's material energy, Mahamaya. And later on, she takes birth, and again as Parvati, right? Daughter of Parvat, Himalaya. And at that time, she's again married to Lord Shiva. So, and sometimes people say he's wearing this garland of skulls, and that's his affection. While it looks so gruesome, if somebody looks at somebody wearing a garland of skulls, it looks so gruesome. Because when we look at Kṛṣṇa, Lord Kṛṣṇa, we say, oh, he's wearing Vaijayanti Mala, he's wearing a garland of lotus flowers. And Lord Shiva is wearing a garland of skulls. Oh my gosh, what is going on here? So also the Mother Parvati later on, when she is married to Lord Shiva. So we heard about Sati, goddess Sati giving up her body in this particular pastime in the 4th canto, 3rd chapter. But when she is again appearing as goddess Parvati, and she is material energy. At that time, she asked this question of Lord Shiva. So she asks him, how is it that, what are these garland of skulls? She's wondering. So she one day asks him. And he says, actually, these are all your previous forms, right? You took so many births, and every time you died, I was so much in love with you, so I kept your skull in the garland around my neck. Now somebody who hears it, actually now you realize that it is a loving mood. He loved his wife so much that he would even keep her skull, because he's at the crematoriums, he doesn't find, he's used to seeing bones. So it's very normal. And he's also Satchidananda Vigraha. He's also fully cognizant of all. And then the 55th quality is possessing all mystic perfections. So 8 kind of mystic perfections, Lord Shiva already has all those perfections. So when he is keeping, so now Mother Parvati asks, how is it that I have taken so many births, but you don't take, right? Lord Shiva, you are eternal. How is this possible? You have a Satchidanand body. Then he says, he gives the secret, and this secret should be very motivating for us devotees. He says, because of the mercy of Bhagavatam. And so this is where he starts reciting Bhagavatam to Parvati, so that by hearing Bhagavatam, Parvati, her very existence would become spiritualized. So this is the whole program. Srila Prabhupada explains again and again in his purpose and many of his lectures. He says that the whole program of Krishna consciousness is to make our existence spiritual. We have receive material body, yes. When you get lemons, you make lemonade, right? So you make the best of the bad bargain. So this is a bad bargain that we have received this body, and we feel that we are conditioned. We experience that we are conditioned. We behave as we are conditioned. However, when we engage in devotional service, we transcend the 3 modes of material nature. So now we are not conditioned at all when we are performing devotional service. We are above the 3 modes of material nature at the level of transcendence. And the exchanges that we experience when engaged in devotional service are all transcendental. So we are in this world, but not of this world. And so we are from, spiritual world, Vaikuntha's realm. So we actually get situated there. And everyone is engaged in devotional service. We are engaged in devotional service. Everyone is meditating on Lord Shri Krishna. We are meditating on Lord Shri Krishna. Everyone is glorifying, chanting his name. We are chanting his name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now, we also heard that Sati, she is material energy herself. And Srila Prabhupada explains when she went uninvited to her father's place, at Daksha's place, when Daksha Yajna is being performed, at that time, he had welcomed all his other daughters, but he did not, welcome Sati Mata, Goddess Sati. And even though Goddess Sati's sisters and her mother, they all came to welcome her, Goddess Sati ignored, because she was the pet. She was, her father's favorite daughter, being the youngest. And we have experienced the youngest sons and daughters, means they are normally the favorite of the parents. And so she was really affected. And she had enough power to kill her father, because she is material energy herself. And he is just a living entity who has been given the body by material energy, right? Lord Krishna says, Yantra Rudhani Maya. We all are riding on this machine given by material energy. So she could have easily, punished, but she did not do so. Why? Because she thought that I have received this body given to me by my father. So father, gives us body. So the body, even though from material energy we are getting, the medium was her father, Daksha. So she decided to first give up that body. Now, one of the interesting things is, as soon as she gives up the body, the associates of Lord Shiva, they became angry. They did not have this restriction that Mother Sati had. So they decided to kill Daksha and spoil the yajna. So when they attacked Bhrigumani, he immediately chanted mantra and he placed oblations in the fire, and river. Yes, I know. Devas, they appeared, very powerful devas, and they started attacking the associates of Lord Shiva, so they scattered. These associates, they ran away. And when Lord Shiva, they came and told Lord Shiva did not take any action till that point. What happened was, it was Devashi Narad, when he carried the message and conveyed it to Lord Shiva. So Srila Prabhupada says that Devashi Narad, he carries the message from one place to another. So this is where Lord Shiva, he's not acting because of anger when he is breaking away, a matted lock of his hair and throwing on the ground, and we see Veerbhadra, coming out, the black demon rising from that. It was that Devashi Narad identified that it was Daksha who did not welcome. He insulted and was the cause of goddess Sati giving up her body. So he is a murderer from that perspective. And at that point, the proper punishment for a murderer is to receive capital punishment, right? He should receive. Now, sometimes people also say that why don't we, provide such punishment in current times? Well, there have been too many instances that innocent party has been given capital punishment. That's why it is not suitable for the current times, because we do not know if the person has really performed the murder or, killing of other human beings. So that's why capital punishment is not supported so much, because of, like, after many years, it comes out that actually it was performed, that heinous act was performed by someone else and not the devotee. So from that perspective, capital punishment is not recommended, even though Manu Samhita says, and Lord Shiva, he actually carries out on that injunction that I have to punish. Goddess Sati, she did, even though she was capable of, because she had received the body from her father, she was not in a position to make that decision. But Lord Shiva, he makes that decision. So when Lord Shiva is doing, that is where this purport becomes very important, because the translation talks about that a devotee who has dedicated their life to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they do not differentiate one living entity from another living entity. They are looking at everyone with equal vision. So such persons treat all living entities equally, right? And from Bhagavad Gita, we do understand this aspect. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. With properly endowed with knowledge, a Pandit, a learned person sees with equal vision what, again, the example that given in chapter 5, verse 18 of Bhagavad Gita is, he looks at Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Brahman, a Brahman, Gavi is a cow, Hastini is an elephant, Shuni Cheva Shopakicha, a dog and a dog eater. A person who is properly learned, a Pandita, always looks with equal vision on all these personalities, because he understands that these are different bodies, and in the heart of these bodies, again, living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. And Jivera Surupaya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. So how would you, mistreat an eternal servant of Lord Krishna? So Jivera Surupaya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. A living entity is an eternal servant of Lord Krishna. Yes, because of conditioning of the body, some know it, some don't, right? And because of the influence of material energy, one is conditioned. So a dog behaves like a dog, a cat behaves like a cat, a man behaves like a man, and a demigod behaves like a demigod. So again, those differences are because of the different kind of vehicles. By knowing how to ride a cycle, you cannot ride a car. You need to know how to ride a car. So you're giving capabilities based on that level. So again, you can understand from that perspective. And now the purport becomes very important, is because here, Srila Prabhupada is revealing that Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he blesses someone and when he punishes someone, it is a blessing, it is all auspicious. And Lord Shiva's name, Shiva means all auspicious. So how could he be engaged in any inauspicious activity? So in reality, he is, when he is, breaking away a strand of hair from his, and then from his head, and then creating this demon, Veerbhadra, and asking him to be the leader. So Veerbhadra also has been recognized. Shukdev Goswami is saying that Veerbhadra is actually the anger of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not the anger of Lord Shiva. And so Here, Veerbhadra is going and he destroys, means all the associates they destroy, and Veerbhadra he kills Daksha. But he had used various weapons, but that's not how Daksha was to be killed. So he realized that there is this wooden altar where the animals are sacrificed. So this is where he was able to use the wooden instruments to chop off the head of Daksha, and then his head is burned. He throws it to the southern end as an oblation for the yajna, completely destroying the very purpose Daksha was performing that yajna for. And later on, all the demigods, they are afraid, right? Brag and many of even Aditi's sons, they were, and the teeth broken. Brigumani was also punished. So similarly, we hear that great havoc has been caused, but that is to punish the miscreants for the various activities they did perform previously, either at the yajna or when Lord Shiva was blasphemed. So they are being punished for their karma. So this is like, the reactions of the karmas. And when somebody gets the reaction of karmas, as early as they get it, it is for their benefit, right? Because Maya Devi, her interest rate is greater interest rate than any of the credit card interest we can think of. So again, the more we procrastinate, more we delay. And how do we procrastinate? Sometimes people say, well, some bad news is coming to you and somebody mistreats you and you revolt against it. That's one way of, but again, at the same time, you understand the proper situation and proper behavior, and following the Sadhguru and Shastra 3 references, you act accordingly, right? But if you don't act accordingly, and if you oppose it, or if you don't kill the messenger, is another message. So if the person is giving you some treatment which is not beneficial, but we have to think as devotees. Devotees think, what is the lesson for me to learn here? How can I improve myself or my condition? What am I learning here? And if there is a lesson, we actually thank the person because they have, first of all, helped us reduce the negative karmas, the negative reactions. And second is they have made us get more closer to Lord Shri Krishna, come more closer to Lord Shri Krishna, improve our devotion services, improve our bhakti. And from that perspective, it is very benefiting for us. So here we also indirectly heard as how the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam is. Like, one way is Bhagavad Gita is where Lord Krishna and the Son of God, means he is telling us what to do. But in Srimad-Bhagavatam, we learn how to do it by the example of the great devotees of Lord Shri Krishna. And Vaishnavanam Yathashambhu, Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava. And we should not think that Lord Shiva is below Lord Brahma because Brahma is considered as his father, right? When the Chaturkumaras, they decided not to engage in progeny at that time, Lord Brahma became angry. And from the middle of his eyebrows came out this bluish, reddish boy. This was Lord Shiva. And that's why his name is Rudra, because he was produced from the Rudra anger of Lord Brahma. But at the same time, he has more potencies than Lord Brahma. He is more exalted. And here Lord Brahma himself has come to satisfy Lord Shiva because he knows the glories of Lord Shiva. So this is where we learn that, again, how one should be engaged in devotional service and always be respectful to other living entities. You do not know where a Mahabhagavat could be hidden, right? So just from the outer dress, we should not try to judge people. We should be very much compassionate and take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and exalted devotees and the spiritual masters and the Brahmanas, so that we can be in the right position. So when we look at the action of Lord Shiva, it is actually a mercy, which will be even accepted by Daksha, Prajapati himself. He will accept that it was a great blessing that he had from Lord Shiva. And with the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam, I do want to address that when Lord Shiva was reciting Srimad-Bhagavatam, at that time Goddess Parvati, she fell asleep. Now this is also because of the wish, nothing happens without the desire of Lord. But this recitation of Bhagavatam did not go waste because Shukadev, he was a parrot, he was a pet parrot of Srimati Radharani. He used to carry message between Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So Srimati Radharani, when going back home, had told him that wherever there is glory, he will not feel separation. So he was hiding in the tree when Lord Shiva was reciting Srimad-Bhagavatam to Goddess Parvati. And Shukdev Goswami realized he was a parrot, right, in the tree, hidden in the tree. Parrot is green, the leaves of the tree are green, so he was camouflaged, completely hidden. And so at the time, when Goddess Parvati started saying, stopped responding, he was responding. And when Lord Shiva realized that when Goddess Parvati woke up and he said, how was the Bhagavatam recitation? She said, well, forgive me, Lord, I fell asleep, right? Then Lord Shiva said, who was responding then? Who's this person? And he could understand, he's all cognizant, he could understand there's a parrot hidden in the tree. So he chased the parrot, and the parrot went to Vyasadev's ashram, where as soon as Vyasadev, he was ready to recite, his wife yawned and the parrot entered her mouth, and by mystical arrangement of the Lordship, which is inconceivable, took the form as a baby in her womb. And Lord Shiva, he was pacified by Vyasadeva by saying that if you have, if the parrot has already heard Bhagavatam, then it is eternal. You cannot destroy it even if you want to. And Lord Shiva accepted that. So there's some amazing lessons, and Samadharshana becomes very apparent as how a devotee is looking at it based on individual living entity, based on their position, and is, treating them accordingly. And Lord Shiva is at that Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na shivchati na kamshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti lavate parant. So this is where we come to this particular chapter and this particular incident from equal vision as how Lord Shiva has always performed all auspicious acts, irrespective of where he is, not based on his time, place, circumstance. He's all auspicious. All his acts are benefiting. And here, after, Goddess Saraswati, Goddess Sati, she has given up her body, and the whole arena has been spoiled by Veerbhadra and the associates of Lord Shiva. When Lord Brahma is approached by the demigods and they all go to Lord Shiva, the assembly of Lord Shiva is amazing. When they go to the Kailash hill, the Kailash Parvat, what do they see? They see that Lord Shiva is sitting in the assembly of great sages. All the 4 Kumaras are sitting there. Devashi Narad is sitting there. And all of them would be always engaged in what? Lord's glory. Satatam kirti yanto mam yatantasya dhanvata. So he's completely equipoised. He's meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's inspiring all of us that no matter what kind of situations arise, we should never give up devotional service. We should take it as an opportunity because it is for our own purification. Hare Krishna. So this is where we would like to end this chapter. Please feel free to share your comments, your realizations, your insights, as well as any questions that you may have. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, is there any question anyone has or any comment you would like to have?
Hare Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa. I got a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. It's a pretty good class. Thank you very much. I missed part of it. I had to step away, and I like the lady in the story. I was having a serious issue with sleep right now this morning. The distinction that you made with receiving chastisement, and that's a good thing. Could you go through that again?
Yes. So when we get chastised, it actually helps us introspect, right? Was I not humble? How can this chastisement be good for me? Yet at the same time, we should not just accept any kind of injustice as part of chastisement. So again, the austerity of speech talks about that we should speak things that are not agitating to others. We should be truthful, it should be pleasing, the talk should be pleasing, it should be benefiting. And we should regularly recite the Vedas, right? So these are the 5 aspects of austerity, the 5 ways we can have austerity of speech. So if somebody is chastising us, we have to also look at the whole situation, time, place, and circumstances, samaya, kala, and situations. So again, we have to look at path. And based on that, we should look at, does it help me in my spiritual progress? And when we take chastisement, we should also pay attention, who are we getting chastisement from? I normally prefer to take chastisement from, people I can trust, people I respect, right? If Madhvacharya Prabhu chastises me, that Jiva Prabhu, this class you gave, I did not like these topics, which he may follow up afterwards, then I would take it seriously, right? Because I trust him, I respect him, I have a relationship with him. And chastisement also is related to the tolerance. So just like Lord Śiva, he's very tolerant, and he's showing by his example that he's not responding back, even though Daksha is saying, strange words, means he's calling him was not auspicious, but his name and his activities all are auspicious. He could have said, no, Prabhu, that is not true. So again, from that perspective, we have to look at it. That is it true? And if some stranger comes and just suddenly chastises us, we may not pay much heed to it. We may not pay much attention to it. The only thing we look at it is like, maybe it's just our karma coming back. And we just have to be tolerant, not get agitated. Just because other person is getting agitated, Lord Kṛṣṇa, he talks about endearing qualities of a devotee. And in the 12th chapter, he's talking about those endearing qualities of a devotee. And the chapter 12 is devotion service bhakti yoga in Bhagavad Gita. So that is, Yasmano dujite loko lokano dujite chaya harshamash bhayo dvege mukta yasa chame priya. So he's saying that one who does not agitate others and one does not get agitated by others. So we should not get agitated by the external conditions. Otherwise, what is the value of our spiritual advancement if Maya Devi can quickly agitate us? And Maya, hey, andhakaras. Kṛṣṇa is Surisama. So when we are always in light, we should not try to enter darkness. And agitation causes darkness. Hare Krishna Prabhu, does this answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Jiva Tattva Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. So, very quickly, just borrowing from what Arjun Prabhu, the response he gave to Arjun Prabhu in terms of agitation. So, at this point in time, with all the disturbances we've seen around the world, especially, exploitation from the political class, exploitation from the aristocratic class, exploitation from, the intellectual class. So it's always, the class system is there because of Varna and ashram that we cannot do away with. But those are the epitome of the class system actually are exploiting those below them. And if one looks back and says, well, I shouldn't be agitated, at what point, even because Mahaprabhu himself actually, led demonstration against, the Kazi. So at what point do we say, well, this is the line that shouldn't be crossed, or we should just accept whatever is thrown at us at any point, at any place?
Thank you. So at what point one should act righteously, right? There are so many incidents happening and they're causing agitation. So on the transcendental platform, and Shukdev Goswami refers to this earlier in this chapter as well as the previous chapter. He's saying that, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport is explaining that if one should never hear blaspheming of devotees or the spiritual masters or the Vaishnavas, and if one can punish such a crime, so again, there are different steps being identified. And so to avoid hearing, one should close their ears and walk out of that assembly. That's one. And Lord Śiva does that. Means when Daksha was blaspheming him, Lord Śiva, he quickly got up and he left that assembly. So then he was completely out of that situation. Another is, if you have the strength to punish the person, then you should punish and correct the person. Then the extreme level given in the Shastras, which again, maybe in Kali age, we may not want to go in that direction. Shastras say that if one has the ability, then one should kill the chastiser, cut off his tongue, kill the chastiser, and give up one's own life. So again, this is at a very highly, at that Paramahamsa stage one may do. And the influence of material nature is that they will always agitate, right? That is the mood of material nature. So it's like Srila Prabhupada used to give example, we have fallen in an ocean, and this material world is an ocean of nations. And the ocean is hitting us by waves. Are we going to say waves you stop, or are we going to make ourselves come out of the waves, right? And when we take to devotional service, Lord Krishna says, Teshaham samuddhata mrityu sansara sagara. Bhavami na chiralpata maya veshita chetsam. He is the swift deliverer for the devotees from this ocean of nations. So all we have to do is take to the, stay steadfast and serve Lord Shri Krishna and follow the instruction of spiritual master and the Vaishnava acharyas, so that Lord Krishna comes and picks us up from this material ocean. And in this particular case, from the big picture perspective, we can look at Sankirtan Yajna. We should engage in Sankirtan Yajna, not look at all these happenings, but rather engage in Sankirtan Yajna and look at the Shastras and the teachings from the Acharyas as well as the Guru, so that we can decide as a group, as a community, as a next course of action, so that we all advance spiritually and not get bogged down. So again, we should always approach senior Vaishnavas, we should approach the community for help, and we should always, engage in Sankirtan Yajna, because it is very pacifying. Just like when you go to temple and you feel pacified, right? Why? Because the, city is in a mode of passion, influenced by the mode of passion. Forest is influenced by the mode of goodness, where the rishis, they used to have their ashram hermitages. And you can say there's suburban places, they're in mode of goodness from that perspective. But temple is above the three modes of material nature. It is in a transcendental realm. So when you go to the temple, you feel completely pacified, you feel pleasing. When you interact with devotees, you are at that spiritual realm, you are at that spiritual level where you are fully calm. So similarly, we should engage in devotional service, and Sankirtan Yajna is the best process for this age. That's the Yajna we should engage on. Does that answer your question, Prabhu? Hare
That's,
Krishna.
that's Prabhu. Thank you so much. And as a follow-up again, Prabhu, can you give that distinction you made between Banamali and Lord Shiva wearing this the garland of skulls?
What was? Oh, the garland. So the garland of skulls were basically Goddess Parvati in her previous birth. She appeared as Sati, and she had many other births. So she was always, Lord Shiva is her husband. Even though she's taking various births, she's getting married to Lord Shiva. And when she dies, Lord Shiva, when she gives up her body, because material energy is eternal, she's just giving up her body. So at that time, the crematorium, Lord Shiva is there. So he's used to seeing bones and skulls and all. So because he loves her so much, it doesn't matter which body she takes, he keeps a token with her. So he's keeping that skull in the garland. So he adds a skull to the garland that he's wearing. And it's actually a token of love. And it's a reflection of his love towards his wife, who is appearing as, Sati Devi and Goddess Durga, Goddess Parvati. But from external perspective, they can be deceiving, and people may consider that like Daksha. He said that he wears a garland of skull, not knowing the secret behind the garland of skull. And he's saying that his daughter is like as good as Gayatri Devi. He's making a comparison, not realizing that actually the forms which his daughter is taking, those forms, when she leaves those bodies, then Lord Shiva still preserves, the skull as a token and adds it to his garland. Hare Krishna. Does that explain it, Prabhu?
It does, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, Kṛṣṇa, I have another question, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Could you go over the distinction with the capital punishment issue, the execution?
Oh, yeah. So in Manu Samhita and in Shastras as well as in Srimad-Bhagavatam, this has been given, and Srila Prabhupada explains that if there is a murder, then he should be given capital punishment. So Lord Shiva, knowing, and where is he hearing? He is not taking any action till he has heard from his associates, because he knows that his associates are emotionally driven, right? Because they saw, like the mother, like Goddess Sati, giving up her body, right? Invoking the yogic fire and then burning herself. And so they were angry, and they were defeated by the Ribudevas produced from the fire oblation from Bhrigu Muni. He did not act on that at all. he acted, in anger when Devashi Narad, who also has spiritual body, who carries this message and reveals to Lord Shiva that it was Daksha who was the murderer. He did not, welcome Sati, who was his daughter. He did not treat her properly. And in that situation, the only solution Sati saw was to give up the body that she had received from Daksha. And he did not even act at that point. That, my dear daughter, I'm sorry, don't give up your body, I welcome you. He did not act rightly. So he needs to be punished. Otherwise, he would further perform sinful actions and he would have to suffer. So at that point, for the benefit of Daksha, Lord Shiva, he produced this demon. And Veerbhadra was the demon, the giant, blackish looking demon. We should not look at the color because this demon is said to be the anger of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not anger of Lord Shiva. And that's why when Lord Shiva, when he does Tandav Natya and the end of the day of Brahmā, all the universe, all the planets are annihilated. And at the end of the life of Lord Brahmā, the whole universe is annihilated. That's also an invocation of the anger of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, when the mercy comes, it comes through devotees. So in this case, Lord Shiva is the medium through which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is invoking his anger. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna. Yeah. Thank you for the wonderful class. So you, as you mentioned that Shiva also, like when he killed everybody, he did it for the benefit of the people who are mere spectators, like so that they also do not get reactions. So the thing, something similar to this, I had listened when in Mumbai, in my early years, there was a seminar which Narayani Mataji had taken, and she said that in Vaishnavas, like we as Vaishnavas, when somebody speaks something not very nice to us or insults us or speaks derogatory things, we should keep quiet, and then we do not get the reaction of it. The speaker gets the reaction. The one who speaks bad about you gets the reaction if we choose to keep quiet.
Right.
At the same time, that this, now how am I, like, it's just very funny that I think of this, like, when Shiva is so compassionate, he's a Vaishnav, he's the number one Vaishnav, the topmost of all Vaishnavas, and he has this compassionate nature. So he wanted to not he did not want those living entities to suffer who witnessed this Daksha's thing. So he took action against them. So how are we to think of this thing, which I heard many years back, like we as Vaishnavas, how are we to, like, if we have to be compassionate, then how, like, isn't that a struggle? Like, we do not offer verbal response and they get the reaction and they suffer for it. So, but if we give a verbal response, we get the reaction because we chose to react. So isn't that like a complex cycle?
Actually, very nice example by Narayan Mataji, and we have to also understand, if we react to it, or are we responding to it? There's a big difference between the two words. Like I said, I gave the reference of a shloka from 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Lord's telling endearing quality. Yasmano dishte loko lokano dishte chayati. So where a person does not get disturbed by others and does not disturb others. So we have to also look at it. If I respond to this speaker's comment, because I'm agitated, will it agitate the speaker or not? Or will the speaker be able to respond properly? Now, this actually reminds me of an amazing conversation that occurred between Srila Prabhupada and His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj. Could I refer to this? Hare Krishna. So again, think of it this way. And Srila, once again, His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj, he revealed to His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj that this was a life-transforming conversation he had with Srila Prabhupada. So when he met Srila Prabhupada, and very honestly, he revealed his heart to Srila Prabhupada, right? And His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj at that time, his name was, he was not sannyasi at that time, his name was Ghanshyam Das. Ghanshyam is like the beautiful dark cloud form of Lord Shri Krishna. So again, Ghanshyam is another name for Lord Krishna. So he said to Srila Prabhupada, it hurts my heart to tell you this, but I must. There is racism and prejudice within your movement, amongst your devotees. So when Srila Prabhupada heard this, Maharaj revealed to Rāma Maharaj, His Holiness Rāma Maharaj, that Srila Prabhupada could have defended it. No, it is not so. Or he could have said, given some, excuse, maybe this and maybe that, but he didn't do anything. What he said, what Srila Prabhupada said, was life transforming for actually not just him. When I read this, it was life transforming for me as well. It gives us a very new perspective. Srila Prabhupada said to him, if you are affected by what these ignorant devotees say and think, then what is the difference between you and them, right? So again, if some devotee is saying something without realizing the impact, and they're just like, speaking it out because of emotions, and they're making distinction between black and white, men and women, all different kind of living entities, Americans, Indians, Europeans, then if we think at that level, then what is the distinction? If we agitate them, if we respond to them, then what is the difference between us and them? We should be rising above. So again, when he said that, in other words, Srila Prabhupada was revealing that even when we become devotees, some of the devotees in the early stages or even in the medium stages, they make distinction, right? Even Madhyamadhikari, they make distinction. Only an Uttamadhikari would be able to have Samadarshana, would be able to have equal vision. So to rise to that level, to develop that endearing quality, to treat everyone equally, right? We have to learn to tolerate. So we, as we learn from Shikshashtaka, given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we should be humbler than the grass on the tree, more tolerant than the tree, not expecting any respect from others, but ready to give all respect to others. Then we can chant constantly. And we want to eternally engage in devotional service because that is our true shelter, the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So by remembering this, that it is, we don't want to cause our fall down and further fall down of the other devotee, even though he may be speaker. So we don't want to agitate them. We don't want to be agitated by them, which will be the downward cycle, right? Which is exactly happened. When Daksha was speaking, Lord Shiva walked out from the assembly. But the associates of Lord Shiva, they were continuing to curse the Brahmanas who were in that. And Bhrigu Muni, representing the Brahmanas as leader Brahmanas, he was cursing back. So both were actually causing each other to fall down. Hare Krishna. So does that help you? Does that answer your question? Hare Krishna?
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, what I understand is that at our level, at sadhaka level, we need to save ourselves first. Instead of exhibiting that compassion and giving back replies to save the other person and for the other person not to get reaction, we need to save ourselves and purify ourselves first. That is what is the conclusion that I draw. Is that correct? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Is there any other question anyone has? Or please share your realization. What else situation? Again, there are some amazing events happening in our current times, right? There was that disruption. Yeah, go ahead. So there was that disruption at the Capitol building. So we are all like.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for this amazing class. It was very detailed and it was wonderful. I just have a question. Sometimes there's an echo. Just one second. When something happens, like here in this instance, Lord Shiva when by that the offenses that were committed in this yagya, the consequences were immediate. That lost his head immediately. So the consequences became apparent immediately. So in some cases, though, like Chitraketu, when Mother Parvati perceived an offense and she cursed him, the consequences came later, in his next life. He was born as a demon. So my question is, what determines when the result of offenses, perceived or otherwise, come to fructify? When do they come to manifest? I don't know if I asked.
Actually, we know the cycle of karma cycle, right? First, this is Kut, Bija, Aprarabdha, then Prarabdha. So that's very technical stuff. To understand it simply is, so example, Chitrakur's example you gave, right? When he was, he was the king of the Vidyadharas. He was on his flying fort, and he saw from the palace that Lord Shiva was in an assembly of the sages, and Goddess Parvati was on his lap, and he was embracing her while he was speaking to the sages. And so he laughed that this is, very interesting. So when he made this comment, he's making this comment because he has a very close relationship with Lord Shiva. But Goddess Parvati, she does not know that. And so she thinks that he has said such a thing to Chitraketu has made such a remark for my husband, who is all auspicious. So she, without realizing the position of Chitraketu, so without seeking to understand, she curses him. And when she curses him, Chitraketu, King Chitraketu, he comes down. He comes and says that, yes, you may have misunderstood, but I accept whatever you have said. So again, whatever she has said, he's accepting. So this is magnanimity, because this is where it is glorified that a devotee does not care about external conditions, whether he is in heaven, whether he is in hell, or whether he is, whatever situation he is in, whether even he is liberated. It does not care. Rather, his only focus is to engage in devotional service, serving to please Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the only focus a devotee has. So in this particular case, he is not so much worried that when this karma will fructify. Right, we are caught in between. So we are affected by karmas because we are worried about, that these negative reactions will cause hindrance in our spiritual journey. Well, even the pious acts, which are done, but not to satisfy Lord Shri Krishna, but done in a name, fame, and glorious and mode of passion, of ignorance, even those pious acts have pious karmas, right? So they would also have their reactions, which will again keep us bound in birth, death, old age, disease. Yet at the same time, we have to learn lessons from the scriptures, from gurus, that when the karmas, they fructify, they're relating with the body, our external condition. They're not related to our eternal condition, which is Jivera Surukhoya Krishna Nityadas. So if we have offended, if we feel that we have offended a Vaishnava, we can nullify it immediately by, paying obeisances, touching the lotus feet of the Vaishnava and asking for forgiveness. And Vaishnavas are very compassionate, right? They are Kalpurvaksha, they're like the desire trees. So they can easily forgive us, so we don't engage in this reaction. So the karma is what we did. It's the reaction of karma which is coming our way, right? The reactions would immediately fly out. And by engaging in devotional service, the reactions fly out. So even if our hand was supposed to be cut, we just get a scratch by the mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the mood of a devotee. And when it's coming, Chitraketu wasn't worried about when it's coming. And he, went to the, he appeared from the fire, from the yajna that was being performed by Tvashta. And as a Vratrasur, he appeared. But his consciousness was always on meditating the Lord Shiva. And that's actually something that Lord Shiva glorifies about Chitraketu. And when Goddess Parvati, she hears when Lord Shiva is glorifying Chitraketu, that a devotee does not care whether he is in heavenly planet, whether they are liberated or they are in hellish planets, they don't worry about their situation because they are constantly serving the Lord. She actually covers with her veil her face, realizing the mistakes she has made, right? So even though she is material energy, she is causing him to go through that because that order has already been finished. The words are already out of her mouth. Yet at the same time, she is feeling ashamed that actually she offended a Vaishnava, but that Vaishnava did not take an offense. It's very interesting that the Vaishnavas don't take offense. It is the Lord who takes offense on behalf of Vaishnava. Vaishnavas, on the other hand, are very merciful. So we should immediately correct ourselves and avoid that reaction to fructify, because that's mad elephant disease, Vaishnava Prad, as we hear. That can destroy our devotional service. And that's something we should always be preserving our bhakti. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank
you. A very elaborate one.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances and my gratitude for such a wonderful, wonderful class. It's amazing. I mean, I learned so much today. I really liked what you said about accepting criticism because it decreases your negative karma. And also it brings you closer to Krishna in the sense, if you can accept it and then, adjust yourself so that you're more humble and more focused on devotional service. That's really wonderful. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Madhvacharya Prabhu, you are actually, humility is personified.
No, I'm a rascal. But I did want to make one comment about the pastime with Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Tirtha Swami.
Yes.
And that comment is sometimes the message from that interaction is kind of conflated. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say is that the instruction that Srila Prabhupada gave Bhakti Tirtha Swami was an instruction for his individual growth and development, that he should not allow other people's nonsense to deter him from his focus on his purification and elevation and seriousness in serving Guru and Gauranga. And of course that's true for all of us. But that's an individual instruction in terms of how you tolerate or how you deal with conflict and controversy and criticism. Because simultaneously we want to create a community where everyone feels safe and supported and respected, and if there are disturbances in the community that prevent people from executing their devotional service in a supportive and encouraging environment, and those disturbances within the community, have to be dealt with. And this is actually a wonderful service also. But as you mentioned, that this is in those instances, then we should, we're always engaged in Sankirtan, and then, consult elders within the community and seniors within the community and things like that. But it's just to say that, individually, yes, we tolerate and we use it as fuel to help our purification. But in terms of on a community level, then we don't want others to be exploited or harmed. And we, take precautions and strategies to prevent that.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Madhvacharya Prabhu. Yes, I fully agree. So again, the example that was shared is for introspection, for our self-improvement, not to tell others. Means most of the teachings that we hear is for our improvement. How can we progress? Well, yet at the same time, as a community, we have to look at overall community growth as well, just like you said. And there are times that we have to take actions for the benefit of community. Just like Lord Śiva, he again created a punishing authority and sent that authority to create the negative karmas and to clean up that environment, and it becomes peaceful. And even Lord Brahma is glorifying. And yet at the same time, all that is going on, should not mean that we give up our devotional service. Our devotional service should continuously go on. Satadam Kirtiyantamam. Just like Lord Shiva, even after doing all those activities, when Lord Brahma came to pacify him, he was sitting in the satsang, in the sadhu sangha. Among the 4 Kumaras with Devashi Nada, then they were discussing, name form activities, glories of Lord Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for giving this class. It was very nice to hear your realizations accompanied with Shastric relevance and knowledge. I wanted to say, so we shouldn't give up devotional service as aspiring, Vaishnavas and devotees, because that's the basis of what we're here for and our commitment to Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada's service of ISKCON, and also the mercy that's given to us by our gurus who are serving Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. So in the instance that there's so many ways to do service. I feel sometimes that we as devotees, we only see one thing. This thing is service, this thing is service, this thing is service. So I'm a mother of 2. So when they were little, there were times when I couldn't participate in certain things. And then when they were old enough, I participated in things that related to them. But there are times when, I'll just throw out there an example, mothers are not perceived to be doing service if they're with their children, but being with their children is one of the greatest services. So not giving up one's service relative to people observing it or seeing it as service, because sometimes people may see, this person's on the altar all the time, they're doing service. Or this person is cooking all the time, they're doing service. This person is managing, they're doing service, because it's in a public view. But service is also internal, yeah? And so what I'm getting at exactly is, if it is perceived or someone is not, you don't see them, they're not coming to the temple, they're not doing a particular service that they did before, what should the mood be? Should it be to inquire, are they okay? Should it be to inquire, they're not doing service anymore? Like how, what would be appropriate in terms of what we're doing here?
Hare Krishna. So actually, you have 2 questions hidden in your inquiry. First is, when as a mother, you are engaged in making sure your kids are Krishna conscious, then that is a service, that is actually a devotional service. Srila Prabhupada in one of the lectures said that the kids are the deities for the parents, and to make them Krishna conscious is the responsibility of the parents. So you are engaged in devotional service when you are, with your kids, engaging and making sure that they are, making spiritual advancement, becoming Krishna conscious. That's first aspect. Second aspect is when you're talking about inquiry, right? When the devotees are, may not be visible to our eyes, not visible at the temple and all. That is community development. So that is a very essential aspect. And again, Madhvacharya Prabhu and Kunti Mata, they know it. They are expert in this. They have been doing it as leaders to manage this community at IFAST Institute. Is where, we reach out to each other. We are, together in it. So that sense of community keeps us strong, keeps us going. The way I like to say is, when I read Lord Brahma's prayers in the 14th chapter of 10th Canto, there Shukdev Goswami is giving a beautiful reference where he's saying that, my dear Lord, your lotus feet are as soft as the petal of lotus flowers, right? And they're the perfect boat on which we can cross over this ocean of nations, this material world, which is also taking shelter of your lotus feet. And when a devotee is taking shelter, then they can easily cross over this ocean because it becomes the size of a calf's hoof print. And one can easily cross over a calf's hoof print. It's very easy to cross, while crossing an ocean is a big deal. Now, we are on this cruise of Sankirtan Yagya. That's what I looked at. When I read that verse, the image that came to my mind is we are on this Harinam Sankirtan Yagya cruise, in the association of devotees, and everyone is chanting together, everyone is singing together, everyone is engaged together in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. So it becomes very important for us to keep, encouraging each other. And if someone is not present, then we should call out to them to make sure that they are doing well and that their spiritual growth is going well. And if they need any help, because external factors can sometimes influence us, right? We hear about Sudama Brahmā. It wasn't impacting him, but his wife was getting impacted. So sometimes material energy puts us in conditions that can impact. But the only support we have is Vaishnavas. And so the second aspect of your question is that, yes, we should be keeping close association and making sure that everyone is well taken care of. And any help we can give, Vaishnava Seva, again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he changes that. What is the dharma for this age? He says, Nam Ruchi Vaishnava Seva Jiva Daya. So Vaishnava Seva of this and devotee association is paramount. Is placing a spatial stress on that aspect, which is when we take care of each other. And that is the basis of ISKCON establishing ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada said that the 6 loving exchanges are the basis. Why? Because we all want to grow as a society. We all want to go as a community. And we want to be each other's, sharing, giving our shoulders to others when they're time in need, as well as, encouraging each other. Hare Krishna. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions? Okay.
So I just wanted to say that I also liked how you had your wife, Ananda Rupa. She was like singing with you and helping you in the background. It was, you guys make a powerful duo. Really nice.
And along with us, they are managing this session with the 2 phones, one for video and one for audio, just to have better transmission for us. Thank you so much for that.
Wow, cool. Really nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
We just
Thank you, Prabhu, for the opportunity.
very soon, please. That was such an informative class. Appreciated it so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Kadimata.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And for next week, we will have His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu from Vrindavan, who is the head priest at ISKCON Vrindavan. He will be giving us his realization on Srimad-Bhagavatam. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jiva Tattva.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Take care.
Krishna.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna, dear
everyone.
devotees. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Preetu Prabhu and Prema Prabhu. What's next week?
Next week, yeah, Mukunda Datta Prabhu from Vrindavan will be giving class next week.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.